That night, I shot all my ammo, most of it, because I was working on it. We're over here, they were dead. It was with the arm. We had to have him hold his intestines in when we got into the chop. I was the only one up there that wasn't hurt. And scared to death. Scared to death. Really, 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 really scared. So I started asking and screaming for help. Somebody get up here and help me. Come along. And then the two little heads. I was down, and all I could see was his head and shoulders. He had a heart attack. And then I saw the red emblem. It was definitely. And then when I could see a silhouette. I blasted. Silhouettes. They're not real people. They're just targets. That was what we were taught to do. I just thought, that just came out. I didn't, that was what we were said. You know, those aren't people, those are silhouettes. No, the kills aren't. No, it's just that you later, after you get home, he was a young man just like I was, only he was in his country, trying to keep me, the son of a bitch, trying to take his country from taking his country. I didn't try to make it wrong. It just was wrong. No, I was trying to, I didn't give a fuck who he was. I was trying to keep me alive. It wasn't me and the Vietnamese. It was me and anybody that's got a gun. Oh man, this is hard. Once you realize that they're gone, they're dead, then what death looks like is nothing. There's nothing there. There's a body there, but there's nothing at all there. It goes from something, a big something, to the smallest nothing that there can be. It goes from dreams and aspirations to nothing. You know, you can kick it, you can hit it with a stick, you can throw rocks on it, you can do anything, and it won't bother it because it's dead. I wasn't fighting for God, country, anything. All that stuff went to the wayside as soon as you killed the first person. It's no longer, everything becomes a fraud. You know, they lie to you. The people that have all the money will never have to fight for their freedom. They got us to do that. They got the poor people to do that. They got the stupid idiots to do that. I think there are people that just, it's not that they don't deserve to live. It's not that they don't deserve to have been born, but maybe they don't deserve to go on living. I do have that. There comes a point when, enough's enough for one person. Enough's enough. You can't live in our world. That's just the way, but the problem there is someone has to have the power to say that you can't do that. And now and then somebody has to give them that power. It's all so confusing.
The future has no meaning. I see no peace for me. For my life is draining from me, from the evils I have seen. I've carried my brothers' bodies, in my arms their flesh will bleed. Their blood will not wash from me, for help, dead eyes will flee. Why did my brothers have to die and leave me here in pain? Why did I have to make it home to face my nation's blame? They said the war was slowing down. I found they lied to me, but the madness did continue. My friends are gone from me. Dear friend, you are not with me now. You died with your family. You died because of our friendship, because you were a friend to me. What happened in the now, you see, destroyed me, made me cry. I cried 1,000 times for all of it, for part of me had died. The part of me that died that year was the beginning of my end. The memories sucked the life from me, from my dreams I can't defend. I cannot rest my tired head for fear of what I might dream. But when I dream the horrors I see, my mind begins to cry. I can't get straight within my head. Insanity controls my mind. I cry at night in fear of life. Rest in peace I cannot find. My love for others has gone from me. I fear I'll lose them too. For the pain that I cause others has split my life in two. My body's torn to pieces. My soul no longer thrives. The longer I remember, the more my spirit dies. away from me. My life has lost its meaning. Only death can set me free.
Only death can set you free. At least 20 veterans die by suicide every day. Carl Marlantis, a Vietnam veteran and author of What It's Like to Go to War, states, "We cannot expect normal 18-year-olds to kill someone and contain it in a healthy way. The drugs, alcohol, and suicides are ways of avoiding guilt and fear of grief. This guilt, grief, and shame can follow veterans for decades, as we saw with Bonnie a few moments ago. Experiences in combat can haunt veterans every day for the rest of their lives. War can lead to many types of wounds, to one's body, one's brain, one's heart, and one's soul. According to Mindy Keenan, clinical director of the Center for Post-Traumatic Growth in California, one of the very first programs designed to heal these injuries to the soul. Moral injury, or the guilt, shame, and grief, is the driving force behind veteran suicide.
And that's what this evening is about. We want to welcome you here tonight. And I wanted to add one thing about moral injury, because it's not something that is very well known. We're familiar with the physical injuries of war and with traumatic brain injury and those physical types of wounds. But there are wounds that go into the heart and into the soul. Moral injury is the things that people who are in combat sometimes have to do or see, or things they don't do. Even when they're under orders, it goes down deep. And we're seeing that these are some of the things that sometimes follow people home from the battlefield back here. Tonight we want to remember those folks. I want to introduce to you now the music piece that is an original piece of a composition. That's the cue for the Ryans to come out. Ryan Jones, composer, and Ryan Gerhardt will be accompanying on this piece here with the bassoon. These two people here have been working over the last year putting this together. Semper means always, and this piece is consisting of 3 different things that are around the first course in the Combat Veterans Certificate program called Embracing the Stories of War, hence the name for tonight. The first movement is about that time of enlistment where there is a lot of excitement, a lot of pride, a lot of joy, and getting ready to go. So it kind of tells the story of the military cycle. The second movement being the things in the class that are taught about what it's like to be deployed in war and in a time of war and being in battle. The third movement is then another very key time, and we'll be sharing a little bit more about this, and you'll be hearing a conversation with some of the veterans about what it is like to come home. And Ryan Jones composed this and really captured the kind of essence of each of those movements. You will also hear at the beginning of each of these movements some of audio from some of the veterans who are a part of our first course, who really are the instructors, who have shared with us their stories and have helped us to learn and hopefully be better able to be helpful today. So, with that.
The morning of September 11th, I woke up to a phone call from my mom. I was hungover, had been partying the night before. She's frantically on the phone telling me, turn on the news, turn on the news, turn on the news. I turned it on just in time to see the second plane crash into the tower. And all through high school, I had talked about joining, that it was important to me. I had a lot of family members who had served. 3 of them served Special Forces. They were SEALs. I thought, well, what the hell, what am I doing here? I'm hungover, I'm partying, I'm going to school. I was getting decent grades, but that ended up ultimately forcing me into, okay, this is for me. I've got to go get that revenge on evil in the world.
it was really great to be around your battle buddies, all the people you're training with. But at the same time, we kind of had like a dark cloud over our heads because we knew that once training was over, the fun time was over, and then it's for real. Because we all knew we were going to war. Because we were in the middle of war. We were fighting two fronts at the time. Half of us knew we were going to Iraq. At the time, in 07, when I was in intel school, it was like, I'm going to Iraq. You know, that was 100% on my mind. So a big dark cloud hanging over us, like, we would have fun and enjoy each other's company and enjoy the training and enjoy the time off, but you knew that there would be a price to pay pretty soon. We didn't really talk about the dark cloud, you just knew it was there. It was obvious, we were all thinking of it. And a lot of my classmates were former enlisted, and they've already been overseas, and they already had the stories of their dead friends and the shit they saw, so you knew what was coming. It's like when you walk outside and you see a big ass thunderstorm coming and some tornadoes. You know it's coming. You did the best you can to prepare for it. You just hope you make it through.
The first time I ventured out, So I got 3 days R&R in San Francisco, California when I was coming back. We all did. And my parents surprised me and flew there. We got to the hotel room and I opened up my sea bag and my dad looked right at me. He said, "Smells like shit, please close it." So I closed the sea bag back up and he goes, "We're going to the mall right now." So, because they wanted to buy me fresh clothes that didn't stink. So when we got to the mall, I was fine. And then it hit me that 36 hours ago, I got shot at. And now I'm on American soil where people don't want to hurt me. And I had a panic attack right in the middle of the mall. I needed to know the way out. I was going to rip somebody's head off. And my dad, calm, cool, collect, put a bear hug on me, and we ran outside. I got fresh air and lit up a cigarette and just calmed down. The transition was tough. That in itself is a cluster too, because there are a lot of ways to go wrong and very few ways to go right. You go through days and days and days and nights and nights and nights of just nothing but that crap on your mind. It wears you out. You know, you get happy. There are happy things that happen in your life, and then you go, "Well, shit, when's that gonna end?" And I'm gonna be pissed off again. When is that gonna backfire on me? Hey, I want to be your friend. Hey, let's be friends. Cool. We're buddies, but when are you gonna die and leave me? Out. So I got 3 days on.
wanted to mention that a little later tonight, we'll be hearing from trumpeter Mason Rorabaugh in a little bit. So now we're moving to the conversation with the veterans. Just wanted to tell you this is going to be a moderated conversation. We've been able to share with them topics and themes ahead of time, so there won't be questions from the audience, but it's going to be moderated just up here. So,
So I'd like to introduce each of our veterans joining us this evening. Sitting right next to me is Ryan Hanna, former captain in the Army Reserves, served in Afghanistan 2010 to 2011. In the middle here, we have Dale Brown, sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, and served in Vietnam 1969 to 1970. Next is Kevin Thompson, sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, served in Iraq 2005 to 2006. Thank you sincerely for joining us this evening. So the first thing we'd like to explore with each of you is your experience coming home. What was good? What was difficult?
Good evening, thanks for coming. Coming home for me, good was seeing my wife and my little puppy in this little carry-on basket thing that she brought to the airport, so that was nice to know her do that. So that was really cool. Coming back, having some good old American food, kind of indulging in that, but seeing friends and things like that, and at the bars. Right in the very beginning, that was a lot of fun, but probably I'd say 72 to I don't know how many hours later, kind of the reality hits pretty quickly. Probably the first time I went to a supermarket after I got back. It took 6 months until I stopped diving on the floor when there was thunderstorms. True story. The first July 4th when I got back was pretty interesting. I was that guy that was diving every time somebody would shoot off some kind of firecracker or fireworks. And so I just eventually learned to kind of stay away from these events after a while. Kind of just muscle memory and reactions, things like that. But ups and downs. Definitely a tough transition. Definitely spent a lot more time preparing to go to war rather than coming back. It's pretty interesting. I mean, there was some trainings and things and stuff that the Army gave us as like instructions before we went to be prepared for events with your family too. I remember distinctly going, I'm not going to do any of these things. That's ridiculous. I came back, I think probably 2 months being home, I finally realized I was doing every single one of those things I was being told about that I was warned. That's somebody that comes back with PTS from combat and more experience. Trying to adjust to panic attacks, especially when I'm driving, which is tough. Different bouts of medication and counseling, things like that. But just each day, it's just, you think about it, but you just try to accept it and do it as like the new normal. Just the new normal experience.
I had to write my stuff down because I can't remember stuff. The experience of coming home, the good part was getting home to my family and friends alive and with all my limbs. The difficulty was coming straight from Vietnam to Lansing, Michigan. Huge staffs in between, no decompression and adjustment time. Just thrown back into it. It was like a surreal experience to land in Lansing and after being gone for a year and being used to being on the highway most of the time because you never knew there was going to be more of a rocket attack. And so that was always a constant thing. I recall my brother, he let me drive his brand new GCO from the airport. St. John's, and I was driving about 40 miles an hour. He said, "You can go faster than that." I said, "I just spent a year going real slow. And I can't really speed up right now." So, and the same thing happened to me with the, we go to the bar, right to the bar. And I remember we left at 2:30, and I walked out with a pitcher of beer. And the bartender said, "You can't take that." I said, "I'm going to." And that was kind of the insanity, the invincible way that I felt. I'd survived a year, I was good. But also was the constant nagging that, my friends were still there and they were still dying. And that was hard to deal with, so that was difficult. So. I also went to a Kroger store parking lot about a week home, and we had these new sodium lights that built the parking lot. And when I saw those first, I had an immediate flashback because we had illumination flares going up all the time at my base, and so that reminded me of that. So there's a lot of triggers that we come back to that we're not prepared for. They just happen, and then you react in the same way. You get that heightened sense of awareness and the fear factor. You're determined to protect those around you. So, anyway, those are some of the difficult things we've had just.
It seemed like a very big question to ask. What experiences were good or bad coming home? I wrote a few things down, and sitting here, I thought of a few other things as well. The first one was, we came back, my first stop was Bangor, Maine. And with what I do now, I look back at it and I think it's quite interesting how society has changed. But when I got to the airport in Bangor, Maine, we were refueling before we came back to Kalamazoo, North Carolina. And I can only assume that they were veterans, but a bunch of old men lined up on both sides of the terminal as we walked off were shaking my hand, congratulating me and such. And I assume I'm conflicted about it because I'm thinking, why are they thanking me? If you had just seen what I'd gone through and what I've done, I wouldn't say thank you very much for your service and such. Very distasteful memory, but it was nice because I got something that past generations didn't get, so it was a nice memory. Coming home was a lot different, I think, for everybody. But when I came back home, I felt I looked like I had everything together, but on the inside, I had nothing together. The work I did, I was a Marine, I was responsible for a lot of things, and as a 22-year-old kid, you're not responsible for anything. You're 19, it seems like. Over there, I was in charge of this, that, and very capable, it seemed like. When I say the bad about coming home, was that the only job I was qualified for was working at the Gap. And then just a month prior, I was responsible for my own life, people's lives. Just thinking the bad was the transitions from a high expectancy of myself and how others saw me in the military. As you go from one rank to the next, there's more expectations and more responsibilities. When you get out, at least when I got out, I was my own self-example. When I got out, I was seen as a sergeant in the Marine Corps that had combat experience and had this experience and so forth, and this responsibilities. I was seen as a 23-year-old kid covered in tattoos with a semester or two of college under his belt. That it's like to escape with a recall day on. So no one took me seriously as that went on. I didn't take myself seriously either. So yeah, my transition was quite interesting.
So getting back to how we opened this evening, thinking about the veteran suicide rate of at least 20 veterans a day. From your experience as a combat veteran, what do you think is behind these suicides that we see among veterans?
That's a tough one. As far as the suicide rate and other people and families going through that, I can't necessarily speak for what other people are going through, what they've gone through. I can only speak for my own experience. Just me personally, I was very fortunate to have and still have a good support network. My wife saved me a couple times and noticed when I started, turning towards paths of hopelessness and things like that. So I was lucky to have a support network to kind of bounce me back when I started heading towards some dark corners and need some extra assistance, counseling, medication, things like that. And not to say that that's the lack of or whatever for what's happening to our veterans, but I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. That's such a travesty and a large subject, and I'm not necessarily educated to necessarily speak to what is happening or what's causing the epidemic or whatever it is. But just for me personally, just fortunate to have a support network, and move on for the shortfalls and things like that.
I've experienced a couple of those suicides in the last year or so with veterans, and I think a couple of things that my mind tells me is happening is number one is maybe survivor guilt and not being able to find a support group. You got to be able to connect with like people when you have an experience. And the other thing is isolation. I think it's the most important thing. If we isolate, we're in trouble. And I think it's important to try and keep tabs on one another as best we can. Even all that said, we just can't stop all that stuff that's going to happen. And it's heartbreaking when it happens. The one veteran that I went to his funeral here last year was involved with a support group of veterans with PTSD. And he was keeping all those guys on track and gals, and then he himself ended up taking his life. So those are things that are troubling to try and find answers for those. I'm sure I'll never know until we make greater. But I'm gonna not stop trying to keep guys engaged. And in my experience, anybody I can talk to, that I can touch base with, try to keep engaged, encourage them to get into a support group with like-minded people that help you get through the tough days. The hard part is staying in today, because we have these triggers and then we flash back and we stay there a while. So we gotta get out of it and stay there. That's my experience.
I think I have two things, maybe three, it's back on my head. But the first thing is ourselves. What I mean by ourselves is that I think back to memory. After we got back, we were in the barracks at Camp Vision, and I can't talk about the other branches and how they act like that. In the Marine Corps, there's a certain philosophy that you're not weak. You don't show emotions, you don't show weaknesses like that. And when I say that ourselves is better for the falls, I think back to a time where we just got back. We've been back maybe a week or so, and we gave a guy we worked with a hard time because he was struggling with those raw emotions, moral injury, stuff we didn't know about yet. And I recall one night, giving a group of us giving him a hard time about not being like everybody else, not being native stone, I guess, hiding that emotion. Next morning, we found hanging in the rafters. So the first thing I think is the cost for it. Just awareness and knowing how the people on scene with the issues of this. Yeah, tough question. I guess I don't know how to answer it properly. That's what I got for you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing there. Since we have you here, wanted to, and Dale had mentioned about keeping engaged with people, how important connection is and having support, whether it's family or whoever. What advice would you give people, especially those of us who are here tonight, as civilian, as non-military, as far as relating and connecting with veterans as they come home? And what would you have to say? What advice could you just give us?
I say empathy. You know, there may be a time where, you know, let me just speak from my own personal experience. When I first got back, the only people I really wanted to open up to and talk to were combat veterans. In the very beginning, I started sharing stories with family and friends, and the initial facial reactions that I got back were pretty much told me that I needed to stop. And so I did, because I talked about some shocking things, and understandably, they're not going to understand. How could they understand? So it was initially off the facial reactions of those that I started, trying to get some of this stuff out that I eventually just learned to stop, and eventually that, didn't work very much longer. So I had to get it out somewhere. So, connecting with other combat veterans was my initial route, but over time, my advice is just show empathy. There may be a time where somebody with these experiences may choose to open up to you, or there may be a situation, a work situation, where you're providing support to that individual. Just listen. Just listen. Empathy, no judgment. Just listen. That's the best thing that you can do. And if you do that, I think anybody is able to help or be there for anyone. Because look, we're all human beings. We all have traumas. We all have experienced things that have stressed us out and pushed us to different limits. We're all humans, and we all experience trauma in different ways. There's just a different, unique set that happen over extended periods of time. But we've all had, issues. So we all can relate to each other. We can all be human to each other. All have empathy with each other. I think that's really the key. But whether it's you're providing services for combat veterans, or you just happen to know them, just listen when they choose to talk. And if they choose not to talk, that's their choice too. But just be there, and have good support. That's all I can say.
I think a couple of good things would be to accept and express appreciation for their service, but also to keep an eye on them and make sure they don't get into the bump, because that's so easy to do. We isolate and go by ourselves. And I appreciate encouragement to, if I'm struggling with something, to try and call a friend that might have the same or similar experience and help me get through that for the day and get me back on track. So that's the only way I'm going to be able to make things work, is if I have somebody else outside of me that's experienced similar things, encourage me, help me to do the next right thing.
So I think the best advice is just coming from an open, honest space. Like Brian said, we all have various traumas in our life. There's no one person that's their trauma trumps somebody else's. Just because I had this experience doesn't mean that somebody else's experience is going to be moved compared to mine because I'm a combat veteran. So just coming from an open and honest place, knowing that you may not be very well versed in that topic, but just allowing yourself to be vulnerable within the situation or the experience with them, allow them to feel safe. I think that's one of the things that a lot of veterans, especially myself, struggle with, is feeling safe. And I go from my own experiences from talking to folks and talking with people with VA. I never felt comfortable, I never felt safe. So I'm not going to share myself and share my stories and memories and things like that. I'm trying to think of I'm sorry. I feel the biggest one, at least for myself anyways, was to, not to push a veteran to talk about anything already. You get the questions, who did you serve, what did you do, how many people did you kill, what was it like, this and that. And at least myself anyways, I got programmed to, this is the question, here's the handwritten answer of what you're going to get out of it. If you just wait and be patient, you're going to get a gold mine out of it, I think, because you're going to feel that you care. If that makes sense. And if you don't, you're going to find it right away. So.
So I think a lot of the answers you just provided can also be applied to this next question. But do you have anything to add in terms of how we, as civilians, can help address the veteran suicide epidemic? So thinking a bit bigger picture.
I mean, I go back to my answer that I just had before. That's a piece of it too. Again, empathy and listening. As far as the bigger picture, I mean, I think this is a first step. Talking about it. We're not the only ones. Obviously, there's programs throughout the United States and the world that are trying to figure out how to best help provide programs, services for those that experience combat, things like that, and then veterans in general. So research, scholastic research, educational programs, things like that. I mean, as far as the big picture, that's definitely something that's needed. But clearly, it's an epidemic. It's not going away. The more discussion, the more topics, the more education out there can only lead to at least more opportunities and understanding of what's happening, and maybe help some others in the future.
Yeah, I think I answered that one earlier too by not letting them isolate and give encouragement, try to understand when they struggle. The other thing is, when we became veterans, we're veterans for life. That never will go away, so we always have that to live with. And it's not a bad thing, because you can encourage the guys behind you coming through. And that's what's been helpful to me, to try and keep encouraging the guys. I see struggle. I've met several veterans, younger veterans, and see them come in and I see how they act around crowds and things like that. I can really identify with that. So I step up and ask them how to do it. So, yeah, just share your experience. That's the best thing I can give.
Yeah, I can't really think of a good answer for that question. The actual answer I wrote down was a good question with a question mark. I honestly don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Well, not a right answer to helping anybody with suicide, I think, or helping prevent the suicide epidemic, other than being present, allowing let them know that you're there, whether it be a spouse or a friend, just showing that you're present and you're aware that things are going on. A lot of us are pretty good at covering things up behind it. And you see guys who are like, wow, I never imagined that that guy had any issues, or that girl had any issues. Had their whole life put together, and straight away, and poof, next day, they're hanging somewhere, or living to be built or something. And just do your best for science. I don't think any veteran will get upset. Anybody in general, I don't think will get upset if you say, hey, something seems fishy. Go down to it. What's going on? Sometimes you have to call them out on it. If they get offended, hell, they're still alive. So, but to be upset about making an assumption on them. I'd rather have one of my friends be upset at me and never talk to me again than be dead, I guess. So you have to call them out.
So we want to have one last open-ended question. Is there anything else you would like to add at this point?
Thanks for coming. That's pretty much it for me. Yeah, good. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
I see there's a question here, what advice would you give to mental health and human service professionals about related to and connected with veterans? And in my experience, I would try to introduce a spiritual plan for readjustment, and not so much the meds. I think some of them have very negative side effects and may have caused some of these suicides. Just try to encourage them to get involved with other veterans group who have had like experience.
That these veterans have a unique trauma. When you think of a trauma victim, it's somebody who's had a trauma done to them in a sense. You're working with a combat veteran that's struggling with this. Remember, they're not always just the victim. Sometimes they're the perpetrator as well. When it comes down to moral injury, it's not always what they saw, it's also what they did. That's where they struggle with it. So, coming from a place of acceptance. There's many times where you deal with somebody who has done something that's against your person or against your belief structure. But the fact that they open up to you and were able to share that is a tough thing. So finding the ability inside yourself to be accepting of their strength to come forward and share that with you.
Thank you so much for being open and vulnerable and talking about these difficult topics with us this evening.
Thank you very much. We have a couple more things to share with you this evening. But before we get to those last couple of things, we wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this evening, the College of Music, the School of Social Work, the College of Social Science, the College of Nursing, MSU Libraries, and the MSU Student Veterans Resource Center. And we would like to bring out, for another thank you, Ryan Jones and Ryan Gerhardt. Can you guys come out for a minute again? Give it a shuffle off, he said. Shuffle off.
We would also like to thank a few guest organizations who have tables set up out in the lobby who provide really important, much-needed services to veterans in the local community. I'm not sure if they arrived, but I know we had a table for the MSU Student Veterans Resource Center. We also have a table for Save a Warrior, for which Kevin is the Michigan ambassador, so he can speak with you about that program and the life-saving work that they're doing. We also have a representative from the Grand Rapids Vet Center, as well as information about the School of Social Work Combat Veterans Certificate Program, which is now open to the community for non-credit registration.
Edward Tick, author of War and the Soul, said this: "Our society must accept responsibility for its war making. To the returning veterans, our leaders and people must say, you did this in our name and because you were subject to our orders. We lift the burden of your actions from you and take it on to our shoulders. We are responsible for you, for what you did, and the consequences."
So what can you do? You can take to heart all of the things you heard tonight, especially what our three veterans this evening shared. As they all mentioned, take time to listen, to be open, to not judge, to embrace their stories. Help share the burden that they carry every day. This is essential if we hope to see them heal. Also consider supporting these nonprofit organizations that are doing the life-saving work through time or money. One of these such programs is Save a Warrior, which is near and dear to my heart because it saved my husband's life. If you haven't pieced it together yet, my husband is Kevin. Save a Warrior has served close to 800 veterans since it first started in 2012. And they put these veterans through a 5.5-day war detox program. In the 7 years, they've had 0 suicides for those who have gone through their war detox.
Now we want to move to our final thing here, which is the remembrance. A year ago, to celebrate Memorial Day, Detroit Tiger pitcher Matthew Boyd, he wrote the names of 4 veterans on his cleats that day for the game. 2 of those names, I think we might be getting a picture up here in a moment. 2 of those names were Staff Sergeant Bradley Boone and Staff Sergeant Brandon Boone, identical twins who were members of the U.S. Army Reserve. And they're right here from our own state, from a small city just northwest of Flint called Montrose. It's just 1,600 people. Bradley and Brandon went off and fought together in Afghanistan for 17 months in 2010 and 2011. They came back to Michigan together. That's them up there. Bradley's on the left and Brandon's on the right. They fought in Afghanistan together for 17 months. They came back to Michigan together. And then in 2017, they died 59 days apart by suicide. The family said that when they returned from Afghanistan, they had changed dramatically. A lot of heavy drinking, lots of anger, trouble sleeping, trouble holding a job. Their father, Charles, said his sons had a hard time getting help. That has to change. Another thing that has to change is the shame that is around suicide. These 2 men, these 2 brothers, fought like everybody else in the war. They endured everything else that everyone else endured. They didn't die on the battlefields of Afghanistan, but the war came back with them and played a significant role in their death here. But there's such shame and stigma around suicide when death comes that way, that oftentimes nothing is spoken. And I was so glad that on that day, the Detroit Tiger pitcher, he wasn't ashamed of them. He put their names, their 2 names, along with the other 2 soldiers on his feet in a very public display of support. And we feel the same thing too. These people shouldn't be forgotten either. What was the latest statistic we have, Tina, in 2000?
Yeah, so according to the VA's state-by-state data report, in 2016, in Michigan alone, 159 veterans took their lives.
You don't hear their names. You don't often get to hear much about them at all. This was one of the rare exceptions. And so, as a way to remember these brothers and the others that they represent whose names we don't know, we'd like to ask everyone now just to bow your heads in a moment of silence.